Welcome to Rich Conversations. Today I'm joined by David Rakauskas. I'm fortunate to know several talented photographers. It's always good to have photographer friends. They see the world in just a different light, and I appreciate that. I've worked with David on a handful of occasions, and I'm happy to introduce you to him. He's someone who pursues his curiosity and is willing to humble himself in order to learn and get better. And you'll get a sense of that in his conversation as well. Our chat ranged from photography to learning to art to even Harry Styles. I'm always down to talk about Harry Styles. It was an incredibly enjoyable conversation, meaningful as well. Something we touched on is confidence, being okay with yourself and living a life that's true to you. You can follow David at Dave Martin Studios. Let's begin. All right. So on today's podcast episode, I have David Rakauskas, and we should just hit the ground running here. But I've worked with David 3 separate times. He's a photographer. He's super talented. And so my first question to you is, how did you go from not knowing anything about photography to where you are now?
Funny enough, so I've always been into like videos and photos. I remember back in like second grade, we had a little handy cam, and I'd always make videos with the neighborhood friends. So we'd always like kind of mess around with that camera, and I'd always have the camera on me. And obviously I didn't really know anything but besides pointing and shooting. And in 8th grade is when I officially learned how to edit, like not correctly, but learning how to edit, because I just got an iMac and there was iMovie on there, and I taught myself how to edit. And obviously it wasn't the best edit, but for an 8th grader, it was good enough. And I remember impressing my teacher, and I just thinking like, wow, this is really great. But that's how I started, was with an iMac and iMovie, because obviously when you're young and YouTube was just coming up back in 2008 to 2010s, and you watch your favorite YouTubers, you want to be just like them, but you never knew how like editing worked as a child, because like you had to cut, and like it was back then impossible to get your hands on things like that because they were so expensive, and it always seemed like if someone had that, they had the full like hand over you or the advantage over you. Yeah. So then I started the YouTube around 7th grade to 8th grade. And like, it was obviously it was cringy stuff, but it was just me in my room, just being like goofy and stuff. And what happened is I went into high school, obviously, and I still have my videos up. And then I think, funny enough, my best friend's wife now said, David, we saw your YouTube channel. And we were at a baseball game. And I was like, oh yeah, did you? And then I went home immediately and I deleted the entire channel, and I never looked. I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh my God, like that was so cringy. But I wish I didn't care so much what people thought, because now the tables have turned where, funny, like she's actually hired me to do projects because she knows my videos are good. I mean, obviously she's not going to hire me to talk in front of a camera for her, but to edit for things for her and take photos. But I semi wish like I didn't have that insecurity of making videos and would have pursued it all through high school, because I did a few projects in that. But once I finally got into it is after high school, around I think it was when I was 19. I watched YouTube again. I've always been into YouTube, and I watched this guy named Casey Neistat, who literally changed like the world of vlogging. And I was like, oh, I want to buy Casey Neistat. He's based in New York, and I think he's out in LA. And he changed the world of vlogging. Like, he's the reason that people use DSLRs and the flip out screen now. And he just like completely destroyed the game. And I was like, oh, so like I've been saving up money somehow. At that time I managed to save up money, and I like was in college and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, like most people that are 18, 19.
Some people now that are 30 or 40.
Yeah, that's true. And so I bought a camera, and it set me back $1,800. It completely wiped out my entire bank account. And I wanted to make videos, but then again, I got self-conscious again from making a YouTube channel. So I took photos, and by accident, they turned out good. Now I look at them, they're complete trash. But at the time, they turned out good. Mm-hmm. And then I just started YouTubing how to like take photos, how to do this. And it's one of those things where you don't remember when you started to know the things. It's like, when did you not know how to tie your shoes? When did you not know how to ride a bike? It's like, it's like that. But from knowing completely nothing to knowing everything, it's almost like you black out because you learn it so fast. And once you get the hang of it, it's like you completely forgot that you even like didn't know anything. So a lot of it was just self-learned. And that's how I got from like knowing nothing to everything, just to span to YouTube, and just honestly couple 6 months. And then that's the technical spot. And then the creative spot is where you grow. And that's where you need to focus more on as a photographer and videographer. But yeah, no, there's times where I look back, I'm like, man, how did I even know how to like not use this? Because when I first bought my camera, I'm not even kidding, I didn't even know how to turn off the flash. And I like flashed myself in the eye. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I remember shooting on auto. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But I like Googled how to turn off the flash and how to do this. And then like it just started off with like little simple, like, okay, well, how do you turn off the flash? Okay, well, how do you do this? How do you do that? How do you do this? And then you slowly over time learn how like what camera does and everything else. And then a lot of it's just experience too.
How did you find out how to do that stuff? A lot of the stuff I do, or the stuff I learn, I go to YouTube University and I just YouTube how to do stuff.
That's exactly what I call it too. YouTube University. That's just how you just look up the things that you're looking to do. Like, how do you turn off the flash? Canon 80D. How to shoot video? Canon 80D. How to do 1080p? And then once you get into 1080p, they're talking about shutter speed, and you're like, well, what's shutter speed? And then you Google shutter speed, and they're like, well, make sure your aperture is correct too, so you can have a shallow depth of field. I was like, all right, great. 2 things I just don't know what that is. So you Google that, and then they're like, and then to have the cleanest photo, you want your ISO at 100. I was like, what does that even mean? So then you Google that, and then you figure out that all of them connect together, called the exposure triangle, which is a shutter, aperture, and ISO. And then like once you figure out how those work, you go back to YouTube, and then you figure like you start to like understand that there's different techniques now of these like things. And that's basically how I learned it. Is I looked for one problem, I tried to solve one problem that caused me another problem, so I solved that problem, and then it was just down the rabbit hole, and I kept having problems. Like, I don't know what this is now, and I don't know what that is now. And that's how I learned, is just kind of like trying to figure out how to turn off. It started honestly with how to turn off the flash. That's how it started. So, and then next thing I know it, you know, I'm out here filming weddings and stuff. So that's kind of how I went from 0 to nothing.
So how do you, because I experienced this of, it feels like the way to grow, or the progress that I make, the way to be successful is to feel like an idiot every day, because you have to learn, and how do you get over I don't know if you experienced this, but
I just experienced this.
the frustration of, okay, now I have to learn how to do this. And then learning, you have to have humility to take a step back and come at it with like a child's mind of like, you know, I just have to learn this. I'm going to soak it in and then try it out and do it. And you feel like an idiot because you're not good at it yet.
Yeah.
You know, and you just feel like a complete idiot. Like, how do you get over that frustration of learning something new?
So, I usually deal with natural light photography. Like I do with portraits outside. So it's all natural light. So you kind of learn how to move around and do all this. But when it comes to studio lighting, is the other day is I did feel like an idiot, but I like to say it in better terms, is it humbled me more, because I was cocky at 19 when I took my first like couple photos, and I went to school for it, but that's a different story for a little bit later. But like even now I was like, oh yeah, I'm great. Like I watched 2 YouTube videos. I'm a professional in studio photography. I already know how to do natural light. And I tried to set up the backdrop. The backdrop keeps rolling down because I don't have clips. I don't have gaff tape. I'm like, and this client drove 30 minutes out to this place that I'm trying, like I basically rented out. And then I tried taking photos. The strobe died on me. So like the flash died on me. And then I look at the photos and they're just complete awful. And I'm just like on the ground against the wall. I'm like, dude, I am so sorry. I'm so trash at this. But like one thing that helps is the fact that 1, he was understanding, and 2, it's knowing that you're practicing. So if it was like a paid shoot, then I would have felt more like an idiot versus more like this is a learning experience, because in the end, you're competing with yourself when you're practicing, because that's what it is. It's to get better. And it's a more humbling experience to understand that, okay, like I'm not the best at this, but that doesn't mean I can't be better than what I am tomorrow. So the next time I shoot, I know to bring clips. I know to make sure the battery's charged. I know to make sure that I bring tape, and I double check my equipment, and that I understand, and maybe watch more videos. That right there in itself is something that teaches me like the humbleness, and like we all start somewhere. And that's exactly what I was when it came to natural, like doing portraits, like senior portraits. I remember the first couple portraits I didn't know what I was doing, to the point where the client's like, should I just do this? And I would just mumble like, oh yeah, sure, that's great. And now I walk into like portrait sessions like that where I'm super confident, and it's like you dial back. And I think it's a good realm to be in, because some of my best photos, not portrait wise but nature wise, were when I was first starting photography. And it's the most fun because you get to learn all over again. It's like
Yeah.
the experience of, have you ever watched a movie or a book or listened to an album that you wish you could re-watch without having the knowledge because it was that beautiful?
Yeah.
It's like you're blessed in that way to
Yeah.
like, I get to redo this again. I get to remember what it's like to learn, because again, later down the road, there's going to be a point where I'm not going to remember how studio light just clicked to me. It just came to me. But now, since I'm older and I can process that, I'll be like, okay, so here are the steps I took to learn, and here is how I learned them, versus just learning to learn. So it's like really just humbling yourself and taking advantage of the situation, because it's fun. It's really fun to mess up, because it's with you and you can joke with yourself. Like there's so many stories and photos I have that are really bad, but they're bad because I love the story behind them.
Yeah.
And like there's one where I was doing a long exposure and I forgot, like I even clicked the button and it wasn't even over, and I was like walking around with it, and it just happened to like get the lights, like it like made like a light painting with the buildings, and I was like, this is so cool, but it was by complete accident. And then I learned like how this works. So it's really just being able to take advantage of that and be thankful that you are able to learn this again and be in this vulnerable state that some creative people forget to do, because you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're not going to really, you're going to learn, but it's a completely different learning lesson. So that's how I get over the frustration. It's just taking it as literally just an actual learning lesson, both mentally and physically, and technically as well.
Yeah, that's great. I think it can apply to so much. Like if you were to give advice to someone like a photographer starting out, or anybody that wants to start their own thing, but they're starting at like zero, what advice would you give to them?
I know it's something that it's a little like a backhand slap when people say just take photos with your iPhone, because I agree, because and this is again with learning from the start is such a beautiful thing, because you're going to have zero, but you're going to do everything to make that photo work in itself. I was out, at 10 o'clock taking long exposure photos, and I was more focused on my subject than I was in like technical stuff, because you can get overwhelmed with technical stuff. And the best advice I can say is invest in your composition and your lighting. The gear will come later. Like you don't need several lenses. And that's what I did before, is I did several lenses. I bought several lenses and I was just kind of playing with the lenses and forgetting about what true photography is. And that's probably some of the best advice, is really just go out and shoot with nothing, because it'll give you everything in the sense of experience and how to like work. Like if I have one lens that's called a fixed lens, or just a prime lens that you can't zoom in, it's just set at a certain millimeter. If the building's too far away, you're going to walk closer. If it's too close, you're going to walk back, versus a zoom lens where you don't really have to move, and that creates laziness. And I think to be as active and as like puzzle like solving you can be, that's probably the best advice I can give to someone that is just getting started in that. For the entrepreneurial side, I would say if you start a business, one, start an LLC, keep track of all your receipts. And one of the most important things, two important things, is one, never talk bad about your clients online. I get people are going to frustrate you all the time, but it's very unprofessional to go on a tangent about how your client like just makes you mad. And I've seen it several times with photographers. And I know that if I were to screen record that and send that to that person, they would lose business and more business. Right. And it's something that comes with maturity. And I obviously I've learned the hard way. Like I've definitely complained about clients, but I don't even repost memes that much about like what the client's budget is, what they expect, blah, 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 because that's rude.
Yeah.
It's funny, but it's
the same rude. Thing with, so I bartend on the weekends, and big rule of thumb is like, don't complain about customers when, especially there's customers there, like other customers hear you talking about other customers, like that's very unprofessional, right?
It is.
So it goes all across the board.
And people are going to remember how you make them feel. That's always the first, that's an impression. So if you're making someone feel kind of self-conscious about that, it's not a good look on the bar, because you're not only representing yourself, you're representing your company as well.
Right.
So yeah, that's and I think that's a great tool overall to learn, and it's biting your tongue in situations. Like you can complain about like clients to other people, like photographers, but even then there's times to dial it back where it is personal information where it's between you and the client. And that's kind of like, that's business, and people don't understand, especially at a young age, because you're just coming out of high school, college, where there's drama all the time. And you're like, oh, like, what did this person say? What did that person say? So
Yeah.
yeah. And then the other thing I can say is probably under promise, over deliver. Never over promise, under deliver, because that is a huge thing. I definitely have been late on projects, big projects before. I've actually missed a project that was on 4th of July and I completely missed it. And that was like the worst feeling ever. I haven't missed a wedding at all, but like, it's just making sure that you keep a schedule and everything on time is really, really important. Because your reputation is going to be more important than what lens you have. And that's like the truest words I can have. So like, just basically don't talk bad about your clients, be on time, have a schedule, you know, make sure you can handle what you can handle. Don't burn yourself out, and invest in lighting and composition. It's for the first couple of things I would tell people if they're just getting started with zero, because all of those things do not require a camera besides like lighting. So
describe composition for someone.
So as you know, composition is like, there's a rule of thirds, and there's things called leading lines. There's going to be selective color, and there's going to be things that just are pleasing to the eye. Symmetry is very attractive to people. That's like some of the most attractive people have a very symmetrical face. My face is very lopsided, so you know, there goes that. But it's understanding that if there is a bird, most of the time you're gonna want, and it's in the sky and it's just a blue sky, you're either gonna want to put it in like the middle or in like the rule of thirds. So like, if this grid is right here, you're gonna want them right here, right here, right here.
Yeah.
Or if I'm taking a picture, say right here, and like my head is down here, there's a lot of dead space or negative space that isn't really pleasing. Like, there's really nothing special about this, versus like here where I have this balancing and then this balancing as well. So that's kind of what composition is. I've actually, like, I'm not probably the best person to ask it, because it's just one of those things that comes naturally to me. But it's always getting something right in camera. And that's what they stress in school. In the 2 weeks that I did attend photography school, I was told that you want to get it right in camera first before you start post editing, because that's where the true magic happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically composition, is just look at any photo and just see why it is pleasing, why it works, and why it's that. I mean, like, there's times where, like, I don't know if you've ever seen the Banksies, but the girl holding that balloon, the way he put it, like, there's a lot of dead space, but it shows that that balloon can fly up there, and that's proper in my terms, because it shows you that this balloon isn't like it could fly away at any time, and it's still on the building, and he uses dead space very correctly, or negative space, in my opinion. So yeah,
interesting. Just chugging gallons of water.
Yeah,
love it. So what kind of photography are you doing now? Like, what are mainly you working on?
So mostly I always go in between photography. I always go in between photography and videography. It's really, that's the best. It's having the best of both worlds. Originally, I always see photographers become photographers and then become videographers. And a lot of photographers actually struggle to be videographers. But the type of style that I'm going right now is basically just senior portraits, kind of like engagement shoots, wedding photos, and wedding videos. But something that I've taken a true interest in is underwater photography. I think it's seriously,
really,
the coolest thing ever. I want to swim with whales and take pictures of whales, because I really want to be put in my place, in the sense of, like, we aren't the biggest things in the world. And I think it'd just be so eye-opening to, like, be face to face with a whale, because, like, whales are huge.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. And I got to get certified in scuba diving, talk to a few marine biologists, a few underwater photographers. And it's the fact of, like, is it going to, like, work out? Do I have to get a 4-year degree? Because whales are protected by the government and stuff. So, like, do I got to get clearance? I mean, do I have to become a marine biologist and do 4 years of school? And then I'd have to move to the East Coast, because obviously, like, whales aren't in Lake Michigan. they're in the ocean.
Yet to be discovered. Yes.
Yeah. Yet to be discovered. But I don't know. I think that's it. I really like still life photography, like pastel stuff. It's like editorial. That's the kind of style that I want to go in. But for basically a living, it's weddings, it's portraits, it's business shots, and eventually product photography. So
yeah. What's the opportunity that you've had that you've learned the most on?
So I worked at a gym called Razor Sharp Fitness. The opportunity in itself was about 3 years. I got promoted to photographer and videographer, and I was allowed to screw up and mess up, and they understood that. And that was probably the best opportunity I had, because in a sense, like, I kept messing up there, in the sense of, like, I didn't do projects right. I was trying to figure out files. It was trial and error. And that was probably the best opportunity to grow, because when it came to actual other clients, I knew how to handle myself, and how, like, and learn from those mistakes and what I did wrong in there. Opportunity wise also as well, I think each wedding teaches you something, because one, you have to get it right the first time. There's really no do-overs, especially in, like, ceremonies or like first first
That makes
kisses
a lot
are,
of sense. Yeah.
yeah, and first kisses. I mean, sometimes it'll be the person's second wedding, but most of the times you're not going to film a second wedding for somebody. But it keeps you on your toes with weddings, especially because I film by myself, and that's very unheard of. It's always 2-man team. I just didn't have the resources to work with 2 people, so I just ended up doing by myself, and I figured out apparently that's really taboo to do. But I had one person, the tree fell and it completely knocked out all the power to the church and like everything. And like the bride was cool, she was fine, but also it's part of the photographer and videographer's job to like reassure like everything's going to be fine. Like we're going to find a way to take these photos. We're going to do, and I did. I found a way to get the video right, and I had microphones, backup microphones, and stuff like that. And I think those are some of the best opportunities because it's every situation is going to be different, but you can still apply each tool to that situation, and so on and so on and so forth. So
Wow.
I haven't had too big of issues with everything. I think that was probably the worst thing that happened, but even that, like things happen technically where you can't get the microphones to work, or there's a buzzing, so they unplug the microphone and you don't have them mic'd up, so you're like, crap, now what do I do?
Yeah.
And that completely changes up the edit and the style of the entire video. So you have to think about it on your feet right there. So if you can recognize like the microphones just went out, I'm not going to have audio. I have to completely do this entire edit, and you have to like play it out in your head and then film completely different than you originally were going to.
Oh
So
man.
it's crazy, but it keeps.
So a tree fell, knocked out all the power.
Tree fell, knocked out all the power.
Man, dude.
I know, and thankfully she was a great bride. I've never had a bridezilla, and even if I did, I would never say I did. But
right,
every bride is cool, but she was, I couldn't believe it, but she was, and I think that just kind of shows what true love is, because things like that, they matter, but they don't. And she didn't let it get to her. She was just more nervous to get married, which is understandable. So plus she had the entire support team, like her bridesmaids were there, her friends were there, like, and it makes for a good story. That's obviously something no one's going to forget. Like, hey, remember when this tree like fell down? And it was absolutely insane. I could not believe it happened.
Wow. So do you have like a particular film, TV show, or a photographer that you like really enjoy their work and you follow what they do?
I really like this artist named Jimmy Marble. He's a photographer. He's a pastel editorial photographer, and his stuff is so unique. It is like the most beautiful artwork I've ever seen, because everything, and I know you pay attention to art and paintings, everything's intentional. And that's what I love about painting. And then his photos, which goes back to the basics, is you want to get it right in camera first. So he does that. Was
it Jimmy Marbles?
Jimmy Marble, yeah. His photography, I've shared a few of his pictures before, and his artwork is just absolutely insane. So like, I don't know if it probably won't even show up, but a lot of it is just like true to life stuff, and it's not true to life. It's a lot of like pop art type deal, and he just gets it right away, and it takes such a creative mind, and I aspire to be just like him. I actually reached out to him and messaged him saying, I love your work. I wish one day I can work for you. And he messaged me back, and I fanboyed so hard. I was like, oh my gosh, like he's iconic.
Dude, these photos, I Googled him. So these are photos or paintings?
These are photos.
I love there's so much color in them.
Yes, and I love that too. I love his photos with everything I have.
Dang, these are really cool photos. So is pastel a color or a texture?
Pastel is a color. It's just like pastel purple, pastel yellow, pastel that. Yeah. He does a lot of vibrant colors, and it's nothing like too saturated. It's all like very muted and matted.
This is totally my style.
Yeah. And I love his photography, and I'm gonna get to that level eventually. Obviously, I can't completely rip him off, but I want to get to that style, because I've never seen a photographer like that. A lot of photographers are light and airy, dark and moody, and it doesn't separate them from others. And he just it's on a whole new level. He's like the Michael Jordan of photography to me.
Jimmy Marble. Take a look. Are you on Google right now or no? Or
no, I can get on Google.
Type in Miami horror art. Kind of reminds me of that a little bit. Miami Horror is like one of my favorite bands. Yeah, Google image Miami horror art.
Why can't I spell Miami correctly? Oh my gosh. I forgot it's M-I. That's embarrassing. I'm a photographer, but I can't spell. Miami horror art. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. Yep, for sure.
It's like
Yeah.
I really like new disco music, like just like those types of vibes, bright, positive vibes.
Yeah,
The
it's just
music
like
kind
it's
of reflects that. It looked like the Jimmy Marble, like that type of music would go well with the photos and stuff.
yep, absolutely. And he's probably like one of the best photographers I've ever seen, and I really love his work.
So is there something that inspires you aside from media, from photography or film, or if there's something in the world that inspires you that then you can apply to your own photography?
Um I would probably definitely say music, because music is the most powerful thing. Like I said earlier, sound is 50% of video, and a horror movie wouldn't be a horror movie without a high pitched violin scare for a jump
Yeah.
scare. So I think music is probably the most powerful thing and the most inspirational thing to me, because when I listen to music, I imagine a video or a photo going through my head. So
Hmm. What
um
kind of music are you listening to?
I listen to a lot of like Tyler the Creator, Harry Styles, Frank Ocean, Rex Orange County.
Harry Styles, dude. I
I
love Harry
love Harry
Styles.
Styles.
Dude,
He's helped me in a sense. Those artists, Harry Styles and Tyler the Creator and Frank Ocean, are very in touch with their feminine side, and I believe have like kind of really crushed the norms of toxic masculinity. And it helps you
yeah.
like be like, if those guys are so cool and everybody loves them, then why can't I just be myself? Like, I don't have
Yeah.
to be the most macho person ever. And I think that's kind of a huge thing too, is just being inspired by yourself and listening to the music that makes you feel good. But I just remember as
Yeah.
a kid, and you probably remember it too. I mean, when VH1 and MTV, were music channels back then, they would in the morning play their music videos, and I would wake up every day like 6 o'clock and watch music videos, and then I subconsciously learned how to put music and videos together and how pictures work. And
Okay.
that's how weddings essentially are. It's just one big music video to you, and you have to pick the appropriate
Oh,
song.
it's
And I
true.
think that's how I learned how to do video correctly, was
Yeah.
using proper music and following the lyrics and make sure that they make sense. So that's probably the biggest inspiration I use.
Going back to Harry Styles, I can see
Love
where
Harry Styles. Love him.
I find him very inspiring because he's
Same.
so confident in himself
Yeah.
that I think when you listen to people's music or you follow certain people, you're attracted to their confidence in themselves.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I feel like he's one of the few like true artists in like pop music where he does his thing. He puts out his music, and what he likes is what he likes. And even the colors remind me a little bit of the Jimmy Marble in some of
Yeah,
like the music videos and
Well, that's the thing
artwork.
is,
And
confidence is key. That's it shows with everybody. I mean, if there's obviously that quote, like, if you don't believe in yourself, then nobody will. And eventually, when you're confident in yourself and you make things your staple and your mark in yourself, they start to brand with you. Like,
yeah,
me being goofy is like, oh, that's just David. Or me painting my nails clear, like, oh, like, I've done it so many times and now it's just me, and because I like it, and
Yeah.
it's really not affecting anyone else. Me like wanting to wear pearls every now and then.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, obviously you get that from Harry Styles, but still, it's just like, if he can do it, then why can't I do it? I may not, have a million followers and be a musician, but that doesn't mean I still can't be something in myself.
right.
And that confidence attracts everybody, and we naturally look for a leader, and sometimes you need to be the leader in yourself. So I think
Yeah.
that's a lot of what Harry Styles is he just leads, but he's not weird about it. He's just himself.
Yeah.
And people are like, whoa, like, if that's cool, then why can't it be cool for
Yeah,
you?
exactly.
Yeah. So
Oh, that's so cool.
and
And Tyler,
love
I haven't listened much to Tyler the Creator.
Tyler the Creator was very vulgar. His first couple albums, he was kind of like, F you, F this, I hate people.
Yeah.
Using derogatory terms to for women and stuff, which, I don't know how PJ the podcast is, but basically you'll understand what the derogatory terms can be. And then he kind of like became more comfortable with himself. And there's this album called Cherry Bomb, which is like, it's basically rap, but it turned more into like soul music, I guess, and if that's the best way I can describe it, more like a Childish Gambino type music.
Okay.
and like he really found himself. Flower Boy is when he's like, supposedly it's like the theory is like when he was like questioning himself if he is gay or not, and that was him coming out. And then Igor is a breakup album about him and a boy, and like him saying like, I know your secrets, like I was your side guy, blah blah blah. And like the music videos are him like chasing a white boy and stuff, and people still love him. Like he literally has told people like, yeah, I'm gay, but people don't think like he's serious because he just jokes around so much. And, like, but people like, he's a fashion icon. Like people like, he's confident in himself, and I think that's what makes people attracted to like people like Harry Styles, where like, you're just yourself. Like he wears what he wants, he does what he wants, and it's cool because he is just that person. And I think that's a really big life lesson that you unfortunately have to learn later in life, because if you think about it, because I was a kind of a jerk in high school, like you kind of like bully the weird, like you bully the weird kids for what? For literally just being themselves. And now that's the cool thing to do, is just be yourself, because it's the most authentic. Like the kids that liked anime, or the kids that would like, you know, Naruto run through the hallways, like they're weird, but in reality 5 years later I find myself watching anime and Naruto, right? Like, so it's unfortunate that has to happen sometimes, but I think that's, people like that subconsciously help other people just be themselves and be okay with themselves, because even if you're not cool for the first couple of years of your life, you could be cool for your entire life if it's up to you. So
you just got to be cool with yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And it's just, that's where confidence comes from.
Yeah. What do you think, is there a habit you have or something you do every day that you think makes a positive impact on your day?
It's kind of a double negative, I guess, or it's kind of like a positive and a negative. I don't know if there's a double negative, but I drive around a lot. I spend so much money in gas. Driving is my escape, because that's where I can listen to music. And yeah, I can listen to music and be in my like room and stuff, but it's just completely different when you're driving, because you're doing two different things. You're in control where you get to go, but it's also, you just get to drive and like look at stuff and really imagine and
I told that to Ken. You know, I was getting dressed, you know, because now I'm in Chicago and everything's like locked down, and you literally can't, like nothing's really open. Yeah. So, and you can't sit down somewhere to go inside. And I was getting dressed. He's like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "I'm just gonna go for a drive."
Yeah.
And I just drove around the city. Yeah. You know, listening to music.
Exactly. And it's fun, and it can help relieve stress for me, but also it is negative, because there's times where I'm procrastinating, and procrastinating gives me anxiety. And then I drive to avoid that anxiety, which only causes more anxiety. But then I'm like, oh, so what can I do? So then I go drive even more. But yeah, I think driving is it's funny enough, because if I ever were to become a musician, and it's something I've actually looked into later down the road, but I think my first like album would probably be called, it had to do something with driving, like long drives. Or something. I don't know what to call it, but it's because it's been such a huge part of my life, and I love driving. Like I'll go to Green Bay and back like twice a month, and I've gone to Elkhorn, which is probably
wait. So okay, you drive that far when you go on these drives?
Yeah, like
so you live in Racine County, right? Southeast Wisconsin.
Yeah,
for listeners.
And then like I'll go to Milwaukee. Milwaukee's like 30 minutes, and like that's not enough time for me to think. So then I tried Sheboygan, and I was like, okay, that's good enough. And then like I would go to Green Bay, but I've always have gone to Green Bay just for some reason. I think when back in high school, my friend and I would sneak out on school nights, and we'd drive to like Green Bay or Madison on a school night. Yeah, we do that because it was just like, it's like it gets that reaction like, wait, why? And then like, dude, we were just in Green Bay like 5 hours ago. What did you do in your life? And yeah, I just found out like it's fun to drive, whether it's with someone or with someone else. But I think you start to build connection. It's really weird, but you start to build connections with these roads and these routes that you take, because when I drive, I take the same routes, because that's where sometimes I've had my best moments of self-realization. That's where like I've cried, I've laughed, I've just thought. Sometimes I just drive without any music, or sometimes I'll go the entire time singing, or I won't. And it's a great way to kind of find and question yourself on certain situations. But yeah, I'll go to Green Bay, Sheboygan, Janesville is my new place now, which is still like an hour and 20 minutes away. And like I just
when you're in Janesville, do you do anything, or you just drive back? Or
a lot of the times I take drone photos, but you can only take drone photos of so many places. But Janesville it's a cool, because there's a bridge that's lit up, and I really like. I don't like Janesville in itself as a town. Other besides like my friend and I went up to a bar there and we had a good time there. But that's like the only memory I have of Janesville. I think it's just more the drive. Okay. And like Elkhorn, like each city has its own thing for me. So Elkhorn is like, I'll drive out there, and that's when I started to get into running and started to get into fitness. But that was years ago. That's when like I didn't even understand what I was doing until recently, a couple months ago. But that's when like I was pre my girlfriend and then post the breakup. and like everything stayed the same in that town besides, a few construction, but the road stayed the same unless they got paved.
Mm.
But you get the idea. Is like it's like a home away from home, and there's times where like I would just walk out there and then walk back. Sometimes I go to a place, look at the place for 5 minutes and come back. So it's
Really?
something that, yeah, it's like it's unique when you find someone that's willing to do that with you. And I found a few friends that we just go for drives. So that's just kind of like how it happened. And it was even before quarantine that we would do that,
Yeah.
because obviously you couldn't do that with driving. But how did your drive go with the Chicago thing? Like, what do you think about?
Just what's going on, what I have to do. Sometimes in my apartment, I'm like too, like my book is like this.
Yeah.
I'm too close. I have to step away. And a lot of times I find that, like for me right now, there's not a lot for me to do except work on my work. So I
Yep.
feel this anxiety if I'm not working, because I literally have like so much time to work on it. So there's no excuse.
Yeah.
So it feels weird taking a step back and emptying out my mind a bit, even though when I come back now, I'm able to actually create better and more work,
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's the magic about driving. And people, obviously, I'm pretty sure it's illegal just to drive around. I'm pretty sure that's like a law. I forgot what that's called. I think it's like cruising.
Really?
Yeah. I remember actually Dennis told me that, that it's kind of like you're not allowed to like just drive just to drive. But obviously, like if you get pulled over and you can just say like,
Yeah.
I'm going to my friend's house.
Yeah.
But
There was this other time. So Chicago was like locked down. It was like a weird time in like March and April. So the
Yeah.
city was shut down. You really couldn't go outside. You're only supposed to do like essential things. And because nothing was open, my friend, he has a long distance girlfriend. He lives in New York City. She lives in Chicago. So he came back to quarantine with her. And he's the second person I like broke quarantine with. And there was nothing to do. So we just went in my car and then we just drove around the city for 2 hours and just checked out all the neighborhoods. And it was like one of the best days I've had.
yeah.
Just chilling, looking around. In Chicago, there's so many different things to look at, and each neighborhood is unique. And I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Driving, I'm telling you, driving is definitely it's one. I mean, obviously, I think I've probably spent close to like $1,000 in fuel. I'm like you doing that with your drive Uber and stuff. Like I'm about to reach 190,000 miles, and I've only had my car for 3 years. So like the reason why is because I drive everywhere. Like honestly, there's been times where I've just driven to Iowa, Mineral Point, which is Dubuque basically, and I'll go there and I'll come back, and that's like a 2.5 hour drive. So altogether 5 hours.
Wow.
I would like to go to Dork.
I also do it with either ride my bike or I'll take the public transportation. And I lived off the Brown line before, and it goes to the loop downtown and then it comes back.
Yeah.
And I'll just go that. In college, I did that a lot.
Yeah. It's obviously I could go for walks, but it's almost like an addiction in the sense of like I can only walk this path because I can see everything. And then when you're driving, you travel obviously very, fast if you're following on the speed limit. But there's just so much to see. And it's so mundane, but it gives you an appreciation of little things in the sense of like, I like these towns for certain reasons. They're personal reasons. I have no connection. I have no liquidation there or housing or whatever there, but like, why do I like it? And it really, you can self-reflect, especially if you go by yourself and maybe you listen to a podcast or you listen to music or you're just having anxiety or a creative block. And I really suggest like, that's something that you should take more advantage of. Like bike rides are cool. Don't get me wrong. But I think if you take your car, drive somewhere, then take your bike somewhere else new, it's a completely different experience.
So when you listen to a song, are you reminded, does it bring you back to that drive and what you were thinking about and going through?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
There's a few songs like that. A song called Super Rich Kids. I would always drive to Kenosha to therapy because I was dealing with a terrible breakup and stuff. And the reason I listened to that song is because my ex-girlfriend really liked that song. And it like in a way it made me feel closer to her, or like I still had her because I still had that memory of her. But then you also like take into account like the smells, the feels, the weather, what happened that drive. And it was a winter. It was like during December to January. So every time I listen to that song, I think about those times. And even last summer, like certain songs bring me back to that certain feeling. And I think that's a really important tool to have, to be able to remember what something made you feel like. And that's the same thing with photography. Like I look at some photos, I'm like, I know what I was doing at that exact time, and I know what I felt like.
Yeah.
It's a great feeling.
So if you have an open day, how would you choose to spend it?
Well, unfortunately, most people are bad with money, which, I'm getting there. I'm learning how to do money. But,
trial and error. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But I'm very bad with time management, in the sense of being your own boss and having your own schedule is very dangerous, and it's a lot of responsibility. It seems like it's really fun, and it is, like, being able to make my own schedule and do what I want to do. It's great, but it's a lot of responsibility because you can procrastinate, and the only one it is affecting is you. And a lot of the time what I do is I watch a lot of YouTube videos, mostly because I deal with a lot of anxiety about, the fear of FOMO, missing out on what people are doing. Or if there's this girl I like, I'm wondering, oh, is she with someone? Is she doing something? So I'll just watch YouTube videos, like podcasts like Joe Rogan, or even like I like watching dinosaur videos, or like just basically anything, like highlight clips. Yeah. Like H3 highlight clips or whatever, and basketball clips. And I'm not even a sports person, but I like that stuff. And that's kind of what I do in my free time, or I'll go drive around. But usually I try and spend it with a lot of friends. I think the mind of an artist obviously reflects their life truly and what they want to be. So like for you, like your paintings behind there, to me, you're so driven. And I've seen that. Like I was actually thinking before, and I was like, dude, like it is, like, to me, the coolest thing that you have a book, like something tangible. And the fact that anybody in the world can access that and buy it, like that is such a powerful thing. And I think that just shows in your own art and your own self. And I think a lot about on my free days and my open days is to, like, what other people are doing, but in a healthy way, what other artists are doing. And that's the great part, is you can discover the world through your computer. And that's something I've been trying to do. And I've been trying to get into more reading too, and like figure out different arts, because with everything in art, there's always something to learn, and there's always something to gain from. And I'm pretty sure your experience with your book, you probably, I mean, that probably changed your life, didn't it?
Which one? Which book?
Well, I forgot you. Yeah, see, that's already
cool. See, that's what I like doing now. I got 3 books now. Yeah.
You got 3 books? Yeah. Wait, did the third one already get published?
Yeah. Yeah, it came out in May, but it wasn't a big hoopla because everything was under quarantine and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, it's an art book. The third one is an art book.
Oh, yes, I did see that.
I got a... So I took
primary colors. Yeah, primary colors.
So there's a like a really deep story with the art and the book.
Yeah, let me hear it.
So I made all the art for the book. So you're probably aware. So I was on the farm on the tractor. This was in 2018. Yeah, and it started on fire, and I jumped from it. And then it got me just thinking differently about life and wanting to pursue more in life, like not being flat, but like really going after it.
Yeah.
And coincidentally, I signed up for a membership at the Art Institute the week before. So when I went to the Art Institute after the accident, like I was never an art guy. I was never really into art. And then when I went through it, I was like, it blew my mind. It's a museum of just ideas. That's all art is like ideas.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why can't I do this? So I go to the contemporary wing.
Yeah.
And I would see stuff and I'd be like, well, I can do that.
Yeah.
I just got to figure out how I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. And then you go to the art shop or the souvenir shop, and you see all these different, like I would see books, like art books. And it was like, oh, that's what I'll do. So I'll make my own art and then put it in there. And then through the years, whenever I felt like down or, I had like a free night, I would paint. So some of these are like the original paintings.
Yeah.
And it would be like, I'm going to make these paintings, but digitally, and then put them in the book. Mm-hmm. So the book has like 55 art pieces. And then recently I created an online art store.
Yeah. Okay. I did see this. Yep.
Yeah. Where people can buy the art. just like the Art Institute, you know. So now
Yeah.
I have my own store. So that was book 3 that we completed.
That's awesome. Like,
Yeah.
it's seriously like, that's one of the coolest things is, it's funny because I saw someone make a coffee table book of just photos, and I was like, wait, why am I not doing that? Why am I
Yeah.
not getting in on that? And then I realized, like, the driving and everything else, I can put this together. And a project I've had in mind is, you know, I feel like everyone wants to go to California or Hawaii or somewhere like unique in a sense of flex culture, to show off. But like,
Mhm.
art isn't everything. And I think if you can find true
Boom.
beauty in your own state, like, why
Yeah.
appreciate the little things, you know?
So what this taught me too. So a lot of the art was based on things I see going about my everyday life.
Yeah.
So I'd flip through like art books. There's like 3 different types of art in the book, and it's one is just like who I'm inspired by, going to the Art Institute, flipping through like modern art books. I found modern art stuck with me most. So some of the people I liked are like the Bauhaus people, which is this movement in like the early like 1920s and from Germany. Andy Warhol, Jasper Johns.
Andy Warhol's the guy with the soup cans, right?
Yeah. So it's pop art, like pop art, bright,
Jimmy Marble,
optimistic. Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, those types of things. And then, but then also there's a lot of interesting patterns around the city of Chicago. So what I would do is, instead of being on my phone traveling to places, I got my eyes open and I'm looking around the city, and then I take photos of interesting things and then I replicate it. And so I'm training my eye to understand that there's beauty in everything. It's everywhere, but you just have to train your mind how to look for it and see the beauty and the positivity. And I think that's absolutely true what you said. People think of California that way, LA, New York, and everything, because it's already happened. But we can make our own places and the places we live and love, we can make it just as cool, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it takes an open mind to see that. And I think that's, and I don't like to criticize the sense, because I mean, what do I know? But I think the structure of art in high school and elementary school is very misguided, I guess is the best word I can say, because you have to learn fundamentals with photography and anything. Like, it's all fundamentals, like, you know, learning the rule of thirds, your composition, if this like color coordination, the color wheel, I get that. But what discouraged me from thinking that I was an artist is because I couldn't draw, like, and I felt terrible that my artwork was just complete trash compared to everybody else's. Like, and obviously I was really hard on myself, and then I just hated it. I was like, I didn't like my teacher. I didn't like sorry, I couldn't draw. And obviously at the time, digital was just getting to be a thing. And I didn't realize that art in itself is basically anything. It can be,
Art is like a mindset.
it is. And that's the great part about it, is you can find out so much from somebody just from their music taste, their paintings, their pastel and all that. And people don't even have to speak a word. And if you like get a taste into their music taste or art or whatever they like, you can find out who they are just from that thing. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. But it's taught that you have to be able to, like, you're graded on art. And I totally understand that. I'm not going to like be like, wait, like, it's school. But I think some teachers are a little too difficult on students where it can discourage them. And I think it should be opened up, the fact that you can basically do whatever you want in type of art in that sense. At 3rd grade, I remember feeling so crappy myself because I couldn't make it was like a pumpkin or something. It was like a picture of a duck. I was like, it was terrible, whatever. And, you know, all my friends did great. But now, like, I'm training to swim with whales and take photos of whales. So what would my art teacher say now? And it's just like, I won in the sense of that. And it's,
well, it shouldn't be about winning.
But I think I won in myself.
Yeah. Okay.
And the fact that, like, I got over that, which something that made me feel crappy about myself, which is now my livelihood, is I won over that self-consciousness, that fear that I was developed. And I think I think art in its school is great and it's creative minds, but I get you also have to, not every kid can become an artist, but I think everybody has a little art inside them. So
Yeah. I
depending
think
on what it
art
is.
can spark the imagination, which then imagination can be applied to any field, any industry.
Exactly. And with marketing, with every commercial, and this is a thing too, like I said, every painting has a purpose and is intentional. Everything in commercials is intentional. I love
Mhm.
watching commercials because you have to tell a short story in 30 seconds or less. And it's like
Yeah.
that's an art in itself to be able to do that, and then make sure that like your clothing, your wardrobe, your makeup, your lighting is all correct. That's
Mhm.
all intentional, and people overlook it. And they're like, damn, like I hate commercials, but take a second, they're like, whoa, like look at the graphics on this thing. Look at this. And maybe that's just something that I look at, but it's cool to see that we overlook such complicated things and we
Mhm.
take them as such simple things. Like people can say what your artwork was, it was brushstrokes, it was this and that. But if you look for a deeper meaning, which I'm starting to sound a little like philosophical, and one of those art douchebags that are like, oh, like according to my art
Yeah.
studies, blah, 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 blah. But
So
it's
this one has like the most meaning behind it. It's called Kobe.
okay.
And so I was so right before, this was in January, I met with my art editor like 2 hours before I left on the plane. So the Bucks were going to play a basketball game in Paris, and I was like, this would be the coolest thing to go. So I
Yeah.
bought a ticket last fall, and it wasn't the art that made me like go to Paris, because I wanted to go to Paris my entire life. It was the Bucks playing there, and I envisioned, okay, I have like 170 art pieces that I made. I'm going to pick out my favorite ones and I'm going to show it to him. He's going to say, great. And then I'll enjoy my trip. And then we met and he pointed out the inconsistency with them. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So now while I'm in Paris, I'm just like frustrated. And I ended up making like 5 new art pieces actually more than that, but 5 made it into the book. And this is the cover. I didn't have a cover, and it happened the day. This is called Kobe. So in the morning, I was heading out to Versailles, and I don't listen to music often, or I don't put my headphones in when I travel on public transportation because I want to like observe everything.
Smart.
And I was like, I'm on like vacation. I can listen to music. So I'm pulling out my headphones here, trying to untangle them and everything. And then I reach in my pocket for my phone and it's gone. So I'm like, oh no. And I'm like, I'm just feeling like an idiot. Like, okay.
Did you forget it or did it get swiped?
Got swiped.
Oh man.
So
Photographers
then
are amazing. That's an art in itself, man.
So then, since the tractor accident, I've been studying and practicing philosophy. I've been being more intentional with my life. And so the rest of the day, I'm just reminding myself, you know what? It's just a physical thing. I'm not hurt. It's like, I'm not going to let this ruin my day or how I think about my trip or anything. Just move on. And so later that night, I was at a restaurant, this like barbecue restaurant. And I'm sitting by myself and I have my notebook with me, this exact notebook. And I noticed like 20 feet away, this guy had a tattoo on his tricep right here. And it was this design.
Really?
Yeah. So then I scribbled it in my notebook. And then when I got back to the hostel, my card key wasn't working, of course. So I waited in line at the front desk, and someone, this younger guy was in front of me, and his friend came up to him and he said, "Did you hear the news?" And he's like, "What?" He said, "Kobe died." And we're just like, what? And a lot of times on Twitter, fake stuff will come up like that. So I'm like, no, that can't be real. Yeah. And then so he asked him, how did he die? A helicopter crash. And I heard he's taken helicopters sometimes. And it's like, dang. So I got my card key fixed, went upstairs. Sure enough, it was real. And then within like 10 minutes, I just made this art. And then it became the cover of the book. Because it's about anything physical can be taken from you, including your body. But your spirit will live on. Kobe's spirit will live on. And what you do and how you live your life will impact other people, and that will continue into the future.
And it's going back to, people are going to remember how you made them feel, whether it's good or bad. And that is a thing about Kobe. He's always spoke about hard work. And that was cool. That was cool. Yeah. I mean, I think Kobe's death was one of the things where it's one of those things like you remember where you were and what happened. And I think everybody has a story relating to that. Because I like, obviously I'm not a big basketball fan, but I found out from Justin Bieber. I was on Instagram and I swiped up and I saw like a post. And he said, so sad to see. And I was like, whoa. So like, at first, like, I was confused. I was like, what?
Yeah. The confusion.
It just shows you that, you know, the stages of grief is like denial or it's whatever. And it's true. Like everybody experienced that denial stage. And it's just like, whoa, like, so then like, obviously I did the same thing. I looked and I was like, he actually died. And I was like, no. And then I looked on the ESPN and CNN and I was like, wow, like this is real. And it does put things in perspective. You can be the biggest person in the world and still there's certain death no matter what.
Yeah. Yesterday was the 40th anniversary of John Lennon's death.
Really?
Died when he was 40 years old. Kobe died, was he 41, I think?
Yeah.
Or around there. And like Kobe, life, nothing is guaranteed. Like our life is not guaranteed that we're going to live X amount of years or be old when we die. We're lucky if it's that way. But Kobe, in those 40 years, he lived his life like an artist. Like he lived it to the fullest.
Yeah.
And that's what you want out of life. That's what inspires people, you know?
I feel like that takes a certain mindset too. And it's, you know, they always talk about winners and losers and, you know, what is the mindset of those people? Like, why does he have that mindset versus everybody in America? Like, why can't everyone else like pick up a ball or essentially like perfect their craft like that and become like the Michael Jordans and all of that? Like, why was he the one? And I always find that so interesting, is looking into people's brains and their work ethic. I think work ethic is so interesting. And it's a study that I would like to do eventually in people, because you look at how everyone works different. And that's what's so unique about people, is everyone's so different in the way they organize files or they put their books or like they tie their shoes. We're all so unique in ourselves, but somehow some people make it work to their advantage. And like, dude, sitting down and writing a book, I don't know how you did that. I can barely write like a 1-page essay. And I think that's just shows work ethic. And again, that just shows so much of someone's personality and drive to and strive to be like someone better than what they want to be.
Yeah.
Like,
well, why don't we wrap this up here? What's something you dream of accomplishing within the next 5 years or in your future? What are you driven to do?
Run and direct commercials, become an underwater photographer and swim with whales, and reach a higher status and be more respected in mainstream media are definitely the things that I definitely want to pursue in the next couple of years. And those are all possible. I mean, you never see, like, as much as I would love it right now, you never really see young directors. It's very rare. And if they do it, good for them. But I think everyone takes a different direction, and that's probably it. And hopefully, you know, it will be all because of hard work. I mean, dreams don't work unless you do. So yeah, right. Basically swimming with whales in the next couple of years. So that's my main goal right now, swimming with whales, because it's more reachable and stuff. So
what kind of whales?
I want to do blue whales because they're the biggest whales.
Yeah.
And I honestly, like, it's gonna put me in my place. You know, like I don't like being called out by people, but I'm more than happy to be called out by a whale without even saying anything, because it's just like, whoa. Like you think about just floating in water and just this giant thing in front of you, and it just puts things in perspective. And you know, I've never been scared to do it, besides this one video that I showed, which just like shows how little the person is compared to a humpback whale. I think the second biggest whale. It's like, whoa, like this is real life, and this is something that people will never be able to do, because one, they don't want to pursue it, but two, like, what are they scared of? And I get, like, people are scared of open water, they have their fears and stuff, but I think it's just something that I need to do for myself. And I think it's going to help me find myself, in the sense of life, like there's such, I don't want to say there's such bigger problems, but there's such different opportunities. Like everyone wants to be an astronaut and be someone on the moon, but who's not to say that underwater is its own world in itself? And I think that's my version of becoming an astronaut, is swimming with a whale.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on today. This has been so fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's an honor to be on your podcast. I'm a huge fan of everything that you do, especially your book. I still need my book to be signed by you.
Which one? We can make it happen.
The first one.
Homeless but Human. Yeah.
Yes, I need, because I love stuff like that. Like I fanboy over such like things for some reason. I just think it's just so cool to have the author write like sign a book, and it would be such an honor to like have that. So yeah, we'll make that work somehow. But thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Rich Conversations. Again, you can follow David at Dave Martin Studios. Be confident in yourself and make this day your own.